Hello and welcome to Who Wore It Better, where I review Raw and SmackDown back to back and try to figure out which show won for the week. This week, for some reason, felt a lot harder than others. It was hard for me to find out which show I liked better. Also hard for me to figure out which show I didn't like as much. So anyway, let's dive right in. Raw begins with Samoa Joe cutting a promo, calling out Roman Reigns. I actually like his delivery here. It comes off very strong and ruthless. Very interesting, curious blocking for this, because Joe cuts a promo. It cuts backstage to where you see Rollins and Ambrose watching on the monitor. They go to beckon Roman Reigns to watch the rest of it. More time passes. Joe says more stuff on the microphone. Then it cuts back to all three of them watching the monitor. Then Roman Reigns comes out to confront him. It just seems like a lot of wasted time with that one. Anyway, Roman does come out, and then they start fighting in the ring. Then the Bar come out. Then Rollins and Ambrose come out. Big old brawl between all six guys. It ends with the heels standing tall over the baby faces. That's the segment. The whole strategy is for them to all wear down the baby faces up for their individual matches. So let's see how that works out for them. First match of the night is a women's tag as Bayley and Mickie James take on Mandy Rose and Paige of Absolution. They take some time to plug Sasha Banks' match with Alexa Bliss this past week in Abu Dhabi, the first ever women's wrestling match in Abu Dhabi. Sorry, TNA did it first. Although I will say I did really like the full body outfits that Sasha and Alexa wore for that match. I kind of like the idea of having like cool like alternate outfits that they wear on TV, not just what they normally wear, but also kind of go to that full body thing. Those are really cool looks, and I want to see them do more of that on TV. Let's just talk for a second about oh God, that opening promo with the three members of Absolution. I mean, Paige was fine, but then, Mandy was not good. Sonya started out okay. Then the second she said Symphony of Carnage, I just immediately blacked out. Who wrote that promo, and who were the acting coaches? It must have been a team of acting coaches who tried to work with these women to get them to deliver these lines, and they should be fired because they failed. Anyway, the match ends when Mickie goes to the DDT. Paige kicks Mickie in the head. Mandy pins her to win the match, so Absolution wins yet again. This match was not great. I feel there's a lot of standing around awkwardly before spots here and there. Just not a great look for any of the women in this match, especially that opening promo. We get some more dueling promos between Woken Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt, and I have to say the Law of Diminishing Returns hit big time with this one, because the crowd here in Cleveland was not nearly into it the way LA was the previous week. It just felt like more of the same. They could have just played one or the other last week, and it was interchangeable. I feel like Woken Matt Hardy's promos back to back with Bray's kind of exposes Bray's as being silly and dumb. Like, we all kind of knew that in a bubble you could tell they weren't that great, but we were still kind of meant to take them seriously. But when you put it right up against Matt Hardy, whose promos are kind of a novelty act, then you put it up against each other. It's like, they kind of cancel each other out. One thing I really hated was also the new animation they have for when they cut to Matt Hardy, the Woken and the breaking glass transition. That played so often, I got so sick of it. I don't want to see these guys have like dueling backstage promos every week. That's gonna get old really fast. I want to see these guys like wrestle, maybe not each other yet, but like have Matt come out as Woken Matt Hardy and wrestle a jobber or something. Just get him out there in the live crowd doing that shtick. Don't beat the dead horse with the backstage promos. Up next, Finn Balor taking on Curtis Axel. Curtis is still wearing the neck brace when he comes out to the ring, yet Cole says that he is actually medically cleared to compete, so Curtis takes off the neck brace as a big reveal. He and Bo do a beatdown on Finn before the bell officially rings, but as soon as the match officially starts, Finn makes short order of Curtis and wins here. So now after 2 weeks of beating the Miz Taraj members, it feels like we're heading toward an eventual feud between Finn and the Miz once he comes back from the Marine 6, but I've been wrong before. It's the first of 3 singles matches where members of the Shield take on the collective of Joe and the Bar as Seth Rollins takes on Sheamus. There's one really cool spot in particular in this match. I don't think I've ever seen this move done before, where Sheamus put Rollins on the top turnbuckle, sitting down, then has back to Rollins, grabbed his leg, and just threw him over his shoulder, and Rollins just basically goes over and does a face plant in the middle of the ring. That was really cool. I don't think I've ever seen that done before. A little physically impossible, but I thought it was still kind of cool to see. Rollins is selling the leg selectively at times, but when he is selling it, it's really good selling here. He wins with the knee, even though he posts off the injured knee, to win the match here against Sheamus. It was a good match, even though the selling, again, is selective at times. That's just the style that we get now. At least, give credit, he is selling most of the time. Cruiserweight time, and it's a second chance fatal 4-way match between Cedric Alexander, Mustafa Ali, Arya Daivari, and Tony Nese. The reason this match is happening is because, of course, the big story is that Rich Swann this past weekend was charged with domestic violence against his wife, allegedly, over the weekend, and so he was was suspended indefinitely by the company. Of course, he won the first Fatal 4-Way match to determine who would face Enzo for the Cruiserweight Championship, so he's gone. They explain on TV that he had his opportunity revoked, and you know, it doesn't look good for Swann. I looked at the police report and the fact that all these multiple witnesses confirming what Rich's wife said happened. Unless something happens between now and the plea, unfortunately, we may have seen the last of Rich Swann in the company, but be that as it may, we had this match here. The winner will face Drew Gulak next week, and the winner of that will face Enzo. Gulak is on commentary in this match, and I love how he just plays this very stereotypical politician here, where he just refuses to directly answer the questions that Michael Cole is asking him about, like, what would happen if you were to face Enzo for the championship. I love this one little combination by Cedric here, where he hits a standing Spanish fly, followed by a lumbar check onto Ali. A really cool combo there. Cedric does win the match with another lumbar check on Daivari, so now he'll be facing Drew Gulak, so Rich Swann's loss is Cedric's gain. We then go backstage, we see Enzo talking to Drew Gulak, and Gulak starts getting ahead of himself, saying he wants to become the next Cruiserweight champion. Enzo starts running him down, which seems to be planting the seeds for a Gulak face turn at some point in the future, and as he's doing that, Nia Jax interrupts, and Nia and Enzo flirt a little bit as a play from what happened last week. They flirt a little bit here. I guarantee you, this angle will blow off with a simple peck on the cheek. Up next, Intercontinental title match as Roman Reigns defends against Cesaro. It's an awesome match here. Both these guys just lay into each other. It's really hard-hitting stuff, really fun to watch. Cesaro working the arm a lot. It's kind of similar to the Sheamus-Rollins match from earlier where a body part is worked over and it's selectively sold, but I feel it's sold at the right times here in this match for the most part. Lots of close calls for Reigns. They beat the hell out of each other some more. Reigns wins with the spear, and I will say that everyone was very afraid that when Roman won the Intercontinental title, that, oh, it's going to be just like when he had the U.S. title and he never defended it. Well, now he's 3 for 3. He's defended it 3 weeks in a row. I think they're doing a good job keeping the belt fresh and relevant with Roman. They're really making him a fighting champion. So I think that's one way to keep the belt, you know, prestigious as it is, leading up to whatever they plan on doing with him and the championship down the road. We're supposed to get Asuka versus Alicia Fox, but Alicia never comes out. Instead, Absolution returns to ringside, and they show footage of Alicia looking mildly hurt at the hands of these devious females. Oh, they must have put a real hurting on her. So Paige gives Asuka an ultimatum: either get out of the way or we'll make you get out of the way. Asuka starts fighting back. She fires the first shot against the 3 women, but it turns into a 3-on-1 beatdown. It's the numbers game, and then all of a sudden the whole rest of the women's division comes out, and everyone gets a piece of Absolution, which makes sense. It's been a few weeks, and I figure at this point, like, how much longer can they run roughshod over the women's division before the rest of them, which combined outnumbers them? How long would it be before they wise up and realize they have to fight back against these women? Because otherwise they look stupid. But the question is now what happens? Because now that Absolution knows they can't beat everyone up without consequence anymore, what's their next step? Because, hey, we're not getting any women's tag belts anytime soon, so what's the next step in this plan? Backstage, Jason Jordan apologizes to Kurt Angle for his actions for last week, but keeps on whining. Then Kurt gives him some harsh truth as GM, not as his father, but as GM, and then Jason feels dejected. Ooh, slow burns. It's the final match in the Shield versus JoBar series as Dean Ambrose takes on Samoa Joe. Really good match here. It's the first time they've fought one-on-one in the ring. It was really cool to see these guys wrestle each other. Jason Jordan, I should say, was at the top of the ramp watching the match, much like Joe did the previous week when Jordan took on Roman Reigns. At one point, Joe goads Jordan to come down to ringside. Joe puts Jordan in the clutch, but Ambrose hits him with a suicide dive. They do some more fighting. Dean confronts Jordan after Jordan distracts the referee from a 3 count. They're confronting, and then Jordan's about to suplex Dean. Then Joe hits them with the dive again after that. So Joe throws Dean back in the ring. Coquina clutch. Joe wins. The Shield is unable to complete the sweep, but this is a really good match here. And now in this match, Jordan eats 2 suicide dives from 2 different people as he's trying to meddle more in the affairs of this match here. It's really interesting to see where Jordan is going to fit with this thing with the Shield and Samoa Joe and Cesaro and Sheamus. He's like this I guess 7th wheel, you could say. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do with him. Again, slow burns. Up next is the monstrous main event of Braun Strowman and Kane. Monstrous. Did you hear them say monsters? They certainly said enough goddamn times for the whole night. Anyway, it was announced the winner would face Brock Lesnar for the title at the Rumble, which, okay, I don't really want the possibility of Kane fighting for the Universal Championship in 2017, and we've already seen Brock and Braun at No Mercy, and I don't want to see Braun lose again, because Lord knows Brock's not losing the belt till Mania, so really, what's their game here, bringing these two together? Anyway, there's some trading of choke choke slams, they fight into the crowd, and then they break the barricade and they're counted out. So neither man answers the 10 count. It's a draw, so bet you that means it's going to be a triple threat match at the Rumble. We'll find out next week, I'm sure. But yeah, they collide steps, they do double sit-up gimmick, which actually was pretty cool. But then you've got, at one point you got Kane showing fear a couple of times in this big fracas after the match, and I don't think he really should ever show fear, even if he's like on the losing end of something. I think it's really interesting that he's like showing very visual fear and backing away. He's never really done that before. So to see him do that against Braun, I mean, it's great for Braun. It makes him look even more monstrous. There's that word again. But at the same time, I don't think Kane should really be doing that. Braun hits Kane with a running power slam to the table, and that's the whole thing. Yeah, there you go. I think it's interesting that, you know, they're continuing this feud with Strowman and Kane. It doesn't have the same kind of oomph to it that I got from watching Big Show and Strowman. I feel this one hasn't quite hit that yet. So maybe with a few more weeks, maybe they'll get to that point. But again, seeing Kane in the title picture at the Rumble just seems out of place. Before we move on to SmackDown, this week's edition of Who Wore Better is sponsored by SeatGeek. It's an app you can download on your iOS or Android device that gathers ticket information from a whole bunch of different ticket vendors for concerts, sporting events, WWE, you name it. You can find the ticket you're looking for at the price you're looking for with SeatGeek. There's a numerical 1 through 100 code. It's from green to red, so you know exactly what kind of deal you're getting, and you always know what you're paying with SeatGeek because there's no hidden fees. If you want to save some money on your next ticket purchase, download the SeatGeek app using the link at the top of this description. Use the promo code Wregret in the accounts tab, and you'll get $20 back on your first ticket purchase. SmackDown begins the backstage bit where you see Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, the leaders of the Yep movement, handing out flyers saying they're going to occupy SmackDown. Then we go to AJ Styles going to the ring to cut a promo. Interesting little aesthetic change to the WWE Championship where it's now a black slash under the big W's instead of a red slash. So interesting little tweak there. Anyway, AJ's cutting a promo about Jinder Mahal, but then out come the Singh brothers, who seem to be upset that Jinder beat them up last week after the 2-on-1 match, and so they want to accompany AJ at ringside at Clash of Champions. They're done with Jinder, they say, which is just the most obvious, you know, attempt for a swerve you could ever expect. I'm glad they didn't go with that as a match stipulation or whatever, the match, because AJ pretty much sees through everything, even though they hug it out and everything. But after Jinder shows up, AJ beats up the Singh brothers, and that's pretty much the whole bit. But my favorite part of this was there's a big Jinder sucks chant in this as Jinder's on the apron, like just staring at a hole through AJ Styles, and you hear one dude scream, "I love you, Jinder!" That was great. First match of the night is Ruby Riott taking on Charlotte. This is kind of a treat for me because I've never seen Ruby Riott in singles action before. Of course, R. Felix Finch is the scholar of NXT on this channel, so he knows far better than I. I didn't get to see a whole lot, but what I did see, I thought it was okay, but the match does not end clean. Everyone's on the outside. Charlotte hits Natalya, who's at commentary, then she just fights everybody who she can get her hands on. Natalya decks Charlotte, so the match ends in a DQ. There's more of a beatdown by the Riott Squad. Naomi makes the save, and the Riott Squad powders, and then the rest of the ladies of the women's division all beat up the Riott Squad, just like on Raw. How interesting. We got Baron Corbin taking on Dolph Ziggler in singles action here. A couple of big changes that I noticed in this match. First off, Baron Corbin now wrestling without a shirt, it seems. Also, Dolph Ziggler gets his entrance back that he just didn't have for a few months. So I guess we're just going to forget that whole period of time this year where he came out to no music and he had no frills and no flashy entrance. He's back to that now, I guess. Anyway, yeah, Bobby Roode on commentary, much like how Ziggler was on commentary last week. I wonder how it's going to end. Roode just gets up, takes his robe off, hits both guys with glorious DDTs, and the match ends in a DQ, so it's almost a mirror image, a carbon copy, I should say, of what happened the previous week with slightly different arrangements of people. So Corbin is the only one in this build who didn't hit both guys with his finisher in the build, which pretty much makes me think he's going to win on Sunday. After we find out that the Fashion Files has now been demoted to being an online exclusive, which I am not a fan of, we get the Bludgeon Brothers taking on Joe Monroe and Colin Delaney. The ECW legend Colin Delaney is back on television for the first time in God knows how long, but they don't last very long in this match. They get destroyed. Of course, the highlight of this match, besides seeing Colin Delaney again, is the fact that Monroe, with this terrific scream just before he gets powerbombed, was just the best thing ever. It's probably the highlight of the whole show for me anyway. So yeah, they squashed the Jobbers. It's interesting because now we've got the Bludgeon Brothers taking on Breezango. at Clash of Champions. It seems to be the culmination of the whole 2B mystery, and now maybe this is finally the end. I'm curious to see what kind of match we'll be getting out of these two teams on Sunday. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn want to occupy SmackDown again. They're the leaders of the Yep movement, which is getting over. I mean, the Yep chants were big in this show, and they went along every time Sami and Kevin said Yep on the promo, so I think the Yep thing is picking up steam here. They want to get everyone to storm the ring to occupy it like Daniel Bryan did a few years ago, but nobody comes out, which is hilarious. But then out comes Daniel Bryan, and they talk for a bit in the ring. Daniel says that at Clash of Champions, he will be the second guest referee in their tag team match on Sunday. So more progression towards this growing seemingly conflict between Shane and Daniel. So where will Kevin and Sami fit into all this once Shane and Daniel have their eventual blow off? We get the Usos taking on Aiden English and Rusev, collectively known unofficially as Rusev Day. The New Day are at ringside doing commentary, and Big E's got his big old platter of pancakes. I'm sure the pancake thing is just one hilarious inside joke amongst the guys in the SmackDown locker room. Anyway, Aiden English does a great 12 Days of Rusev. It's more like 8, but whatever. Usos cut a promo, and then followed by Benjables. I actually liked Benjables' promo here. Chad was actually pretty funny in his delivery with this part. A good little match here. Aiden pins one of the Usos after Rusev kicks him in the head while on the apron. So yeah, Rusev and English with 2 big wins in a row, which means to me they're probably not going to win on Sunday, but hey, you know, a win's a win, right? Backstage, AJ Styles is being interviewed by Renee Young when he is jumped from behind by Jinder Mahal. So now after weeks of AJ getting the leg up over on Jinder, now Jinder finally gets the last laugh in the build going to Sunday. Like I said before, I've really enjoyed Jinder's chase for the title here. It's been a lot more entertaining than his last few months with the belt. He's been talking less, and when he has talked, it hasn't felt like quite the same promo he was cutting when he was champion. I'm enjoying this character of Jinder chasing the belt. I think a little less is more when it comes to his promos at this point, and his aggression is really showing through, and his frustration and his anger. So this is a good role for Jinder, in my opinion. Main event time as Kevin Owens takes on Shinsuke Nakamura in a match we have seen 100 times before this. Anyway, on commentary, they keep making reference to the fact that we've never seen 2 referees in a match at the same time. But you know, I can't specifically recall examples, but I'm almost 100% sure we have. By the way, Daniel Bryan is on commentary for this match, and the whole match, Byron Saxton just gets pantsed verbally by Daniel and Corey Graves. I normally try to defend Byron Saxton on commentary, but he was just abysmal here. He just came off as such a nerd, such a homer in this whole match, and the whole thing about Shane and Daniel and whose side is who won and everything. It was not a good look for Byron here. Anyway, there's a ref bump near the end of the match. Daniel Bryan immediately gets up and takes off the referee's shirt and puts it on. You can't just there's like 3 or 4 of the referees on your roster. You can't just wave one down. The match ends when Sami distracts Shinsuke on the apron. Kevin hits a pop-up powerbomb, and Daniel Bryan counts to 3 and declares Kevin Owens the winner. Yes, folks, Daniel Bryan may be retired, but we can see here that his shoulder and his arm is in perfect working order, able to count a perfectly good 3 count for the match on Sunday. Time now for me to decide which show won for the week, Raw or SmackDown. Like I said at the top of this review, you know, sometimes it's easy for me to pick winners, sometimes it's not, because sometimes it's hard for me to figure out which show did I like more, which show did I like less. This one was kind of a toss-up, but I am going to go with SmackDown this week because I think it was a pretty solid go-home show for Clash of Champions. You know, it is annoying that the show had 2 straight DQ finishes at the top of the hour or the first hour of the show. But you know what? The more I think about it, like, not every match needs to end conclusively or cleanly as long as the build is good. And although one build was lame, that's the US title match one with Corbin, Ziggler, and Rude, at least the other one with Ruby Riott and Charlotte and then the other women getting involved was at least somewhat interesting. We get to see kind of a preview as to what's going to happen with all the lumberjacks there. As far as the rest of SmackDown goes, I just loved Kevin and Sami's antics all throughout the night with the Yep movement and doing the flyers and everything and trying to get the movement started. I liked the Owens and Shinsuke match, even though we've seen it a lot, at least it was still good stuff between both guys. And then the added wrinkle of Daniel Bryan counting the 3, you know, where's that going to go? Again, the build for a lot of what we saw in this match, not only the tag team match with Kevin and Sami versus Orton and Shinsuke, but also the build for the WWE title, the women's title, and the tag titles, and the build was all pretty strong for that. Although I will say I'm very sad, you know, pour one out for the Faction Files getting demoted to online. Again, not a big fan of that. And again, one thing across both shows was the fact that the women's division stuff gets kind of on the same vibe, where it's like the 2 women's groups come in together on Raw and SmackDown, they raise some hell, and then on the same week, they're both kind of put in their place by the rest of the women's division. That was kind of a weird thing I noticed across both shows. As far as Raw is concerned, I liked all the matches involving the Shield versus JoBar, you know, Roman and Cesaro, Rollins and Sheamus, Dean and Joe, all great stuff. The women's tag team match was a bunch of hot garbage. I hated that and the opening promo. Matt Hardy and Bray, Law of Diminishing Returns. It wasn't as fun the second time we saw it. I want to see live stuff with Matt Hardy, beating somebody up and showing more of that character in front of a live audience. I want to see how that tests out. So that's my thoughts on Raw and SmackDown this week. I can't really place it, but I feel it was the feeling I have that SmackDown was a stronger show this week, largely because of the go-home aspect of it. Man, I don't know if I can forgive them for demoting Fashion Files, man. Anyway, let me know what you thought about Raw and SmackDown this week in the comments section below. Be sure to vote which show you thought was better in the gimmick in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it. Subscribe to Wrestling with Regret. Buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. And check out Patreon.com/WrestlingWithRegret for exclusive perks and bonus content. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.